Everyone thought America let the Philippines go after 1946, right? Independence, flags raised, and the US supposedly walked away. But here's the shocking truth. America never really let go, and the reason why will blow your mind. If you're proud to be Filipino, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and type power in the comments and I'll give you a heart. Now, let's uncover what Washington doesn't want you to know. When the Philippines gained independence in 1946, the image was powerful. The American flag lowered, the Philippine flag raised, and the world told itself the United States had let go. But history isn't that simple. America never really left. It couldn't. And today in 2025, the Philippines has become more critical to US strategy than at any point in modern history. For decades after independence, America kept a firm grip on the archipelago through two of its largest overseas bases, Clark Air Base in Pampanga and Subic Naval Base in Zambales. These weren't just military facilities, they were symbols of America's enduring presence in Asia. In fact, Subic was once the largest naval base outside American soil. But when the Philippines expanded to allow US access to 9 military bases across the Philippines, including sites in Luzon, strategically close to Taiwan in the South China Sea, it wasn't a retreat, it was a reset. Why? Because the Philippines sits at the most critical crossroad in Asia. Roughly $3.5 trillion, 0 cents worth of trade passes through the South China Sea every year. That's 1/3 of global commerce. Whoever controls the waters near the Philippines holds the lifeline of the world economy. But America has other allies, right? Japan, South Korea, Australia. Can't they fill the gap? On paper, yes. In reality, no. The Philippines' geography makes it irreplaceable. It's the closest US ally to Taiwan, sitting just about 120 kilometers from contested waters. It forms part of the so-called First Island Chain, the natural barrier that US strategists believe is key to containing China's expansion. Without the Philippines, that chain breaks. Then, the situation gets even more urgent. China has ramped up militarization in the South China Sea, building artificial islands with runways and missile bases. Filipino fishermen are routinely harassed by Chinese Coast Guard vessels, even within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. In 2023, the Chinese Navy used water cannons to block Filipino boats resupplying Ayungin Shoal. Without US backing, those fishermen would be left defenseless. The Philippines knows it, America knows it, and Beijing knows it too. And that's why the US has doubled down on the Philippines. In April 2023, US and Philippine forces conducted their largest ever joint military exercise involving over 17,000 troops. American warships docked once again at Subic, decades after they were forced to leave. Fighter jets flew over Philippine skies, signaling not just partnership, but dependence. But make no mistake, this isn't charity. America doesn't station troops in Palawan or Cagayan out of friendship. It does so because without the Philippines, its entire Indo Pacific strategy collapses. The US calls the Philippines its oldest ally in Asia. But what it really means is, we can't hold the line without you. Then consider the symbolism. Analysts now refer to the Philippines as the US unsinkable aircraft carrier. Unlike a warship, the Philippines can't be sunk, can't be sailed away. Its geography is permanent, and that makes it priceless. America can build bases anywhere, but it can't replicate 7,641 islands sitting right next to China's doorstep. June, a fisherman from Zambales, has seen his livelihood disrupted countless times by Chinese patrols. He says when American ships are nearby, Chinese boats keep their distance. It's not just geopolitics for him, it's survival. For June and thousands like him, America's refusal to let go isn't about abstract treaties. It's the difference between fishing safely or being chased from his own waters. But here's the twist. While America clings to the Philippines militarily, it also reveals how vulnerable the US really is. For the first time in decades, Washington is openly admitting it needs Manila. That flips the script. The Philippines, long treated as the junior partner, is actually holding a card the US can't afford to lose. Then imagine the potential. If the Philippines recognizes its leverage, it could demand more defense funding, more protection for its fishermen, more military aid for its own armed forces. Because here's the truth. America doesn't want to let go, not because it loves the Philippines, but because it fears losing Asia to China. This military chain is unbreakable for one reason: geography. You can't move the Philippines, you can't replace it, you can only hold on to it. And that's exactly what the US has been doing since 1946 through independence, base closures, and modern treaties. Every American president knows the same reality. Without the Philippines, America's presence in Asia weakens. With it, they hold a strategic fortress. Comment defend if you believe the Philippines should use this position to demand more respect and protection from the United States. Because let's be real, if America can't let go, then it's time Filipinos stop acting like we're the ones begging to stay in the relationship. This isn't just about bases, it's about power. And right now, the Philippines has more of it than most people realize. But military dependence is only the first piece of the puzzle. The deeper truth is economic. And that's where the story gets even more shocking. Military power is only one part of the equation. The deeper truth lies in economics. Because America doesn't just see the Philippines as a fortress, it sees it as a lifeline. In 2025, the US-Philippines relationship isn't just about soldiers and ships. It's about dollars, trade, and people. And here's the part most Americans will never admit. Their economy is quietly tied to the Philippines more than they want the world to know. Let's start with hard numbers. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, two ways goods and services trade between the U.S. and the Philippines hit $23.6 billion, 0 cents in 2024. That makes the Philippines one of America's top partners in Southeast Asia. But that's just the surface. The real story is in the flow of services, specifically the business process outsourcing BPO industry. But wait, isn't outsourcing supposed to go to India or Mexico? That's what analysts predicted, yet America's biggest corporations have chosen the Philippines instead. Why? Because of Filipinos' mastery of English, their cultural adaptability, and their unique ability to connect emotionally with customers. By 2024, the BPO industry in the Philippines had grown into a $35 billion, 0 cents powerhouse, employing 1.4 million Filipinos. Here's the kicker: over 80% of those clients are American companies. That means when an American calls customer service at midnight, there's a Filipino answering. When US hospitals process records, Filipinos are typing them. When Wall Street banks need support staff, Filipinos are running the back office. Then the irony sets in. America, the world's richest nation, saves billions every year by relying on Filipino workers. Some studies show US companies save up to 70% in costs by outsourcing to the Philippines. Without this hidden workforce, American companies would pay billions more, customers would be angrier, and profits would shrink. In short, Filipinos keep corporate America afloat, and that's a truth the giants don't like to highlight. Now zoom out to people, not just trade. There are over 4.2 million Filipino Americans living in the United States today, making up one of the largest Asian American communities. They are nurses, engineers, teachers, small business owners, and yes, even soldiers in the US military. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Filipino American nurses were disproportionately represented in the hardest hit hospitals. Many died serving American patients. That's not just contribution, that's sacrifice. And it's one more reason America doesn't want to let go. But if America has so many immigrants, why are Filipinos different? Because unlike other groups, Filipinos fit seamlessly into American life. They speak English fluently, share similar cultural values like family and faith, and adapt quickly to US norms. That makes them not just another migrant group, but a community that strengthens America's social and economic fabric without much friction. In fact, Filipino Americans are among the highest earning immigrant groups, with median household incomes higher than the national average. That's quiet power. Then think about remittances. Every year, overseas Filipinos send home over $38 billion, 0 cents. A huge chunk of that comes from the US. Those dollars don't just sustain Filipino families, they stabilize the Philippine economy. In fact, remittances make up almost 8% of the Philippines' GDP. And here's the connection. America benefits too, because these remittances strengthen an ally's economy, ensuring stability in a region where instability would only benefit China. Every dollar a nurse in California sends back to Manila is also a dollar that keeps the Philippines firmly in America's orbit. Picture Maria, a Filipino nurse in Texas. She works 12-hour shifts, caring for patients who barely realize she's from halfway around the world. Her paycheck doesn't just pay her rent in Houston, it funds her siblings' college education in Quezon City. Multiply her story by hundreds of thousands, and you see the scale. Filipino labor doesn't just support US hospitals, it supports Philippine futures. America can't afford to lose that invisible bridge. But there's more. Technology and startups are another hidden connection. US companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon outsource IT support and back-end work to the Philippines. In fact, many apps and services Americans use daily are quietly maintained by Filipino coders and IT specialists. It's a reality most Americans never think about. Their digital lives depend on Filipino talent. And then here's the twist. While the US portrays itself as the benefactor, the truth is flipped. America isn't just helping the Philippines is helping America. From call centers to caregivers, from soldiers to software engineers, Filipinos are woven into the very structure of the US economy. That's not dependency one way, that's interdependence. And the US knows it can't afford to cut the cord. And look at education too. Every year, thousands of Filipinos go to the US for higher studies, many in STEM fields. Universities love them because they're hardworking, disciplined, and often top of their class. Many stay to work in America's most advanced industries. That brainpower is another quiet export, one the US relies on more than it admits. But here's the contradiction. While America relies on Filipino talent, it often underplays it in the media. Instead of celebrating the Philippines as an economic lifeline, narratives still paint it as a developing country reliant on aid. The imbalance is clear. Filipinos lift American industries, but rarely get equal recognition in return. Then the question emerges. If America can't let go militarily or economically, what happens if Filipinos realize their leverage? Imagine if BPO workers demanded better wages across the board. Imagine if Filipino nurses collectively pushed for stronger labor protections. Imagine if Manila negotiated trade not as a junior partner, but as a nation whose workers America literally cannot replace. That's not a fantasy. That's the logical next step once people see the hidden truth. Here's another perspective. When America pushes free trade agreements or military pacts, it's not doing it out of friendship. It's protecting the flows of money, labor, and influence it needs to stay ahead of China. Lose the Philippines and US corporations lose billions. Lose the Filipino diaspora and US hospitals, schools, and even tech industries feel the impact overnight. Comment economy if you believe America's success is tied to Filipino talent and that it's time the world admits it. So yes, America doesn't want to let go of the Philippines militarily, but just as importantly, it doesn't want to let go economically. Because behind the headlines and the politics, the US knows the truth. Filipinos aren't just allies. They're a lifeline, and that lifeline isn't easily replaced. At this point, it's clear. America won't let go of the Philippines militarily or economically. But there's one last layer, the geopolitical truth that Washington never says directly. The Philippines is more than an ally. It's the pivot point of America's survival in Asia. For years, US leaders framed their presence in the Philippines as friendship and mutual defense. They praised history, pointed to shared sacrifices in World War II, and highlighted cultural ties. But behind the speeches is a much colder calculation. America doesn't hold on to the Philippines because of nostalgia. It does so because it knows without the Philippines, its dominance in the Pacific collapses. But America has other bases in Asia, Guam, Okinawa, South Korea. Why not just lean on those? Because geography makes the Philippines irreplaceable. Guam is too far, Okinawa is too north, South Korea is locked in by North Korea. Only the Philippines sits at the exact crossroads of Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and the South China Sea. It's the anchor of what US strategists call the first island chain, a barrier that keeps China's navy boxed in. Without the Philippines, that chain breaks. Then imagine the consequences. China fills the vacuum instantly. Its artificial islands in the South China Sea already host runways, missile batteries, and radar stations. Beijing claims 90% of the sea, ignoring international rulings. If the US loses access to the Philippines, China gains free rein to threaten Taiwan, to control shipping routes, to intimidate neighbors. That's not just Asia's problem, that's the world's economy at risk. Because 1/3 of global trade, $3.5 trillion, 0 cents, flows through those waters every year. This is why, in 2023, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called the Philippines an indispensable ally. Not important, not strategic, indispensable. That's as close as Washington gets to admitting the truth. America can't hold Asia without Manila. Let's put it another way. Think of the Philippines as an unsinkable aircraft carrier. Unlike a ship, it can't be moved or sunk. Its islands stretch across the world's most contested waters, giving the U.S. a permanent launching pad. That's why EDCA bases were expanded in 2023 to give America forward operating points in Cagayan, Palawan, and other hotspots. From those bases, U.S. jets can reach Taiwan in under an hour. That's not about helping the Philippines, that's about protecting America's own position in the global order. But here's the uncomfortable reality. America needs the Philippines more than the Philippines needs America. The US projects strength, but it's actually revealing weakness, the fear of losing ground to China. For Filipinos, that flips the script. For decades, Manila was treated like the junior partner. Today, the truth is obvious. Filipinos hold leverage. The US can't afford to walk away. Then the question becomes, will the Philippines use that leverage? Will it demand better military aid, modern equipment for its armed forces, and real protection for its fishermen in the West Philippine Sea? Will it push for stronger economic deals, trade preferences, and infrastructure investment? Or will it simply nod along while the US frames everything as mutual benefit? This is the crossroad. America clings because it has to. The Philippines must decide whether to turn that into respect or waste it. Consider the symbolism. When Chinese ships harass Filipino boats at Shoal, Manila looks to Washington. And Washington shows up not out of kindness, but out of necessity. If the Philippines falls, America's credibility as a security partner crumbles. Japan, South Korea, and Australia would all question U.S. resolve. That's why the U.S. can't afford to let go, because losing Manila would trigger a domino effect across Asia. Roberto, a 48-year-old fisherman from Palawan, told reporters he feels caught in a storm. On one side, Chinese ships threatening him, on the other, the U.S. promising help. But Roberto knows the truth. His small boat isn't just his livelihood, it's a pawn in a global chess match between superpowers. For him, the geopolitics isn't theory. It's the difference between coming home with fish or being forced out of his own water. That's what's at stake when America refuses to let go. But here's the twist the US won't say out loud. This isn't about protecting Filipinos, it's about protecting itself. America clings to the Philippines not because of history or values, but because losing it would mean losing Asia. And in the great game of superpowers, that's unthinkable. Then imagine the future if Filipinos truly saw this power. Instead of being treated as a small ally, the Philippines could stand as an equal partner. It could negotiate like Japan, demand like South Korea, and position itself as the central hub of Asia. America won't admit it, but the Philippines is holding the leverage card of the century. So the truth is out. America doesn't want to let go of the Philippines because it can't. Not militarily, not economically, not geopolitically. And once Filipinos recognize this, the balance changes forever. Drop the word visible in the comments if you agree it's time the Philippines stop being treated as a junior ally and start being seen as the equal superpower pivot it really is. Because the world sees it, China sees it, America knows it. The only question left is, do Filipinos see it?